let's take a breath together before I get started. And let's just invite all of the positive and light energy to come into this orbit so we can have a great session today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I know that I've been sort of MIA, and if you look at my most recent post on Instagram, you'll know why. But in the interest of time, I want to get started. Have you ever felt that deep sense of knowing that you can't quite understand where it's really coming from, but you know that it's your truth? It oftentimes typically come from a very deep place within your gut and also your heart. Well, I want to talk a little bit about that. Most people would call it a gut feeling. I like to call it your intuition. One of the most profound decisions that I have made in life was the decision to move to Bali. Now, I have to tell you that when I made this decision, it certainly didn't fit any of the criteria in terms of making a rational decision. I was here for 2.5 weeks, and I knew that this place made me happy. I had met a lot of people that, felt like I was in alignment with, and it just felt like the right place for me. Now, I did this when I was on a 6-month kind of a break from the corporate life. I even kept my apartment in New York and was paying for it, and nobody was living in it because I had every bit of intention to go back and pick up my life where I had left it off. But I knew after 2.5 weeks, and I couldn't really understand why, I wanted to come back to Bali. And so I made the leap, even though there was a lot of unknowns in front of me. I would say I made that decision based on a deep intuition. Now, intuition can also come in many forms, right? Oftentimes, I actually think that there is a little bit of a clairvoyant sense to it. Sometimes I will just think of a person, and usually, when I think about a person, I know that there's a reason now why I'm supposed to be thinking about that person. Oftentimes, I will act on it and either send a text or call them, or sometimes I won't. And, most often than not, they will oftentimes come back to me and say, wow, I was just thinking about you, or wow, I really needed your support here. I can't believe that you're reaching out to me. So that's, there is something really mystical even around our intuition. And then, oftentimes it's actually just even for me on autopilot. I'm just constantly making decisions based on a feeling, or, if I'm supposed to be in a particular place, or if I want to, I don't know, whatever it is, right? Like, oftentimes I don't even think about it. But I thought for this session, we could kind of break it down into bite sizes. Now, to me, why is this important? Why is it important for us to harness and cultivate and have a greater sense of awareness around our intuition? Well, there have been lots of studies out there that suggest that when we actually make a decision based on intuition, we are far more likely to be happy with that decision over the long haul. I also think that oftentimes we will make a decision based on our rational thinking. And mind you, our rational thinking is actually quite important in decision making. It's just that over time, what I've learned is that when I make a decision based on intuition, it just makes it a lot more, I feel like it's always the right decision, versus when I am making a rational decision, it will oftentimes feel like I'm making a decision based on limited understanding. And so, I feel that we become much more of a better decision maker when we are also, in addition to some of the data that we need to gather around our decision making, we are also coming from a place of intuition. So now I kind of want to talk a little bit about how to make the most out of your intuition. Well, for one, know when it's activated. This requires a little bit of self-awareness, really just being able to scan your body and seeing how it's responding to a particular situation. For me in particular, it oftentimes comes in a lightning speed, right? Like it comes as a thought or as an inspiration or as a feeling. For instance, if I am in a particular place and I can feel that my body is constricting, I know that there is something in that space that is telling me that I either shouldn't be here or I should just be paying attention or like move into a different space. Or when I'm talking to someone, usually I can even sense if I'm supposed to be talking to someone or if I'm supposed to be spending time with them, because as I've said in the past, we are just energetic beings, and oftentimes if we're not in alignment within that energetic orbit, our bodies will actually tell us that we're not. For instance, I was having dinner with somebody that I already kind of knew that I, intuitively that I shouldn't have dinner with, but I already said yes, and I wanted to, I was essentially operating from a place of obligation, which is not always the right way to do things. But over time during the dinner, I started to develop a really bad case of stomach ache. And I just knew that, it just made me realize that I should be listening to my intuition more. So just know when it's activated. It's really different for everyone because you just know your body well, but usually it comes at lightning speed. 2, listen to it, right? When your intuition kicks in, what will happen is your ego will start to fight it, right? And when your ego is trying to fight it because your mind will literally start to activate and it'll start to ask all of these questions. It will start to challenge that intuitive sense. And I just want to invite you, to, when that happens, to basically go back to the original feeling that you had and try to listen to what that felt like for you. Oftentimes, for me, it comes in a form of a feeling, like a gut feeling. And I will oftentimes make a decision whether, in terms of how it made me feel, right? Did it make me feel expansive? Did it bring joy? Did it bring excitement? Or did it make me feel fearful, right? And oftentimes fear is something that you need to even extrapolate further, because why are you really fearful? You can also, you also want to make sure that nervous feeling isn't necessarily coming from fear, or it's just that you're just about to, do something exciting or do something that, that may feel slightly scary, but deep inside, that deep sense of knowing that it's something that you're supposed to be doing. And so, just taking the action of listening to it and understanding it, and when your mind starts to circulate around the thought with more and more questions, trying to convince you that it's not the right decision, because what oftentimes will happen is that our ego wants to protect us and wants to take full control. It doesn't actually like new things. It likes to feel safe. And so you just have to ask the question, try to go back to that original feeling, and see if it made you happy or if it made you frustrated. Oftentimes there's a lot of wisdom in just trying to understand or trying to go back to that original feeling. So one is to listen to it when it's activated, and 2 is, again, just tuning into it. And number 3, the best thing that I have been able to do is actually whenever I'm making a decision, do it in a 2-step process. I will almost always listen to my intuition, and after I make a decision to listen to my intuition, then I activate my mind. Okay, so this is really important, guys, because when you make a decision based on your intuition, what you're really doing is you're putting your analytical mind to rest. And then from there, engage your mind and then start to actually go into planning mode, right? Your mind is really powerful and it is very useful. We need it. We need it in order to actually get things done. But it's not designed to be a critical or the priority in terms of making a decision. Your intuitive sense will almost always give you a better sense of what step you're supposed to take at that particular moment. And then once you make that decision, your analytical mind goes to rest, and then you can start to engage it based on what it is what steps you need to take in order to support that decision. So it's a really, really important process, and it has allowed me to actually quiet down my analytical mind a lot, because before I used to just have it activated all the time. I used to want to try to understand what data do I need to gather, but the reality is that we're just never going to get enough data to be able to support particularly decisions that need to be made right away. So two-step process is a really great way to engage both of those things accordingly. So I really hope that helps you guys. I have missed you, and thank you so much for your understanding. It's been quite the last few weeks for me, but know that I intend to keep this going forward, and I am really committed to helping support you guys through your journey towards self-mastery. And I hope that if you guys end up doing things or have a perspective on how you use or activate your intuition and how it has played a role in your life, let me know in the comments section. And please subscribe to my channel. I don't know what my promotional strategy is going to be, whether or not I'm just going to keep the YouTube channel going, or I'm going to start continue to promote it on Facebook or Instagram. But if you want to keep updated with what I'm up to, please subscribe. I love you guys as always. Love and light, and sending you all so much positive energy. Thanks again.